Hey, I'm Saving Content Zone Ed Acosta, and welcome to dotEXE, a saving content podcast. It's Tuesday, February 1st, 2022, and you're listening to episode number 2. I'll be your host for this podcasting adventure, and along for the ride is my co-host and tan brethren, Eric Acosta.
That's me, the tan brethren. Power overwhelming.
So, this is episode number 2. If you listen to episode number 1, you kind of know what we're about. So, it's been about a week. Has anything changed in your world, Eric, in a week's time?
Days, jobs.
Days have passed.
Jobs have passed.
Been things.
That's what they tell me. Time is forever. You can't slow it down. So, it just keeps going. Not a whole lot has changed. I mean, aside from the whole new game that came out, today?
Today?
Or yesterday?
Today?
No.
Or...
Wait. No, I'm sorry. 2 days ago? A week ago.
I mean,
When
you
did
don't
it
have
come
to
out?
hide the fact we record this earlier than Tuesday.
Well, yeah, I know that. But when did it come out today or yesterday?
It came out Friday, which would be yesterday.
Yesterday. Okay.
We're recording this on Saturday.
That is correct.
Yes,
Days
that
blur,
new
yeah.
game. That brand new game. The one I've played a lot of so far. I'm speaking of Pokemon Arceus. I'm pretty sure Nintendo says Arceus. I've always pronounced that Pokemon's name as Arceus. But we'll go with Arceus. And we'll see how far I go before I start reverting back to Arceus.
See, I have to say Arceus because being in the electrical world, I'm an electrical engineer.
Arc.
ARC is arc. So it's burned in my mind as Arceus.
As if an arc of electricity had burned you. Hey, I was reaching for that one.
Yeah, you were. That was way up there on the top shelf.
And I'm a shorty.
Hey,
So, Pokemon Arceus. This is brand new. It is a departure from the Pokemon formula, but also kind of familiar. I am really enjoying my time with this. It is Pokemon. All the familiar things that you're accustomed to, the catching and the battling and everything, but they've changed things up where it's familiar enough but different enough that it just feels fresh. You still battle, you still go and collect the Pokemon, but the goal is to fill out your Pokedex. So I'm not going to spoil anything with regards to the story, but just know that you are in this time of it's like pre everything that you know about Pokemon. So humans and Pokemon don't live together very well. There are still people who are deathly afraid of Pokemon, and you are trying to help the professor in this time build the first Pokedex, and it's good.
see,
Have
that
you
always
played any of it
confused
yet?
me though. See, the whole building the first Pokedex. I always thought, and this is just maybe my feeble and child mind when I played the original games. I always thought Professor Oak built the first Pokedex. Like that was the whole point of the game. So when I heard this, watching my wife play, I was like, what?
So I believe he built the first in Kanto.
Okay.
But he also, they knew of Pokemon and they knew of a lot of the different things that are, types and, I lost my train of thought. Let's see. They knew the different things like their types and their likes and, what they evolved into and everything. He gives you a Pokedex, and the Pokedex already knows everything about the Pokemon.
That's a valid point.
You are just not categorizing, but cataloging what you're seeing in Kanto.
Good point.
So like I think if you were to, let's say, find a Shinx in Kanto, the Pokedex that he gives you would actually bring up Shinx's information.
Oh, because it would have been technically already in there. Because it was built off of the... Right.
So I think if you were to go the lore route and try to put everything together, that's kind of how it would be. It would be like, well, he's putting together the Pokedex for the Kanto region. What are the Pokemon in the Kanto area?
Right. Well, like I said, my infantile mind when I was playing the game was, ooh, monsters! I want to catch them. I'm gonna fight them. Yay!
So I don't know where I really want to start with talking about Arceus, because there's just so many things that it's doing, whether they're right or wrong, that is really making this thing just something just totally new.
Yeah, well, so I have not personally started my playthrough with Arceus yet because I'm watching my wife play, letting her play first. And it's, I don't know, I know you've played with me and the family, but the Pixelmon. Pixelmon?
Oh, yeah. For the Minecraft mods.
Minecraft, yeah. It feels very much like that, but not as jumbled together as Minecraft mods can feel.
Yeah.
Just because it does a lot of what this game looks to be doing. They did it way earlier, but it was also like shoehorned that kind of thing into Minecraft. Whereas this is a game built off of it specifically.
Yeah, built around it. I mean, you do crafting in Arceus. You can go and buy your Pokeballs and your revives and your potions and everything, but you are collecting the different ingredients throughout your time in the different areas, different lands, biomes, I guess you can call them. And you can craft. So to make a Pokeball, there's just 2 ingredients. And it's kind of like a steampunk looking Pokeball because the time period that this all takes place in. But it requires a apricorn, which is the Pokemon worlds of the Pokemon worlds version of just a generic seed.
Right.
And I keep wanting to say apricorn. I've heard other people online when they're talking about the game accidentally say apricorn. It's really close.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, when we were playing again the Minecraft one, I continually call it an apricorn, and I'm like, that's not what that is. I actually called it acorn and apricot a few times.
Yeah. So I mean, it's got a little bit of that to it. So there's a gathering and crafting aspect. But along those lines too, there is a survival aspect to it, because not only can the Pokemon fight each other, the wild Pokemon can actually fight you, and you can black out from too much damage from a Pokemon. So there is a little bit of that survival aspect that you would find in games like a Minecraft or other survival games. Not to the same extent, but it's there.
Enough to add that stress, that little bit of stress. That's like you're not just God walking in the world, right? You still have that right. I could possibly pass out.
Yeah, and what I've really enjoyed so far about it is the catching of the Pokemon. In the older games, you just rustle through some grass, or you're walking through a blank cave, and just randomly a Pokemon will spawn and hit you, or you'll go into battle. In later games, you could see the Pokemon flying or walking around in the grass, and you could avoid them if you wanted to. Now it's a 3D environment. A lot of people like to compare it to Breath of the Wild in that way, but
It does have
I
the same
feel
kind of art style too.
yeah, it does have a little bit of that. I won't say it's cell shaded, but it's close.
Yeah.
But I think it compares more to Monster Hunter. So if you've played Monster Hunter, you know the loop of the game is you start in town, you prepare for your hunt, you go out to the land that you're going to hunt in, because there's multiple different lands, and within those lands are not an open world, but a large map you can traverse. And Pokemon is set up the same way. You have a town that you start in. You get all your missions from. You can buy new clothing. You can get items. You can do your crafting. Take care of the Pokemon that you have in your pasture. And then when you're ready, you go out into the different lands of the Sinnoh region. And they call it. Why am I drawing a blank on the name of this place?
Husui?
That's it.
Husui or something like that. Yeah.
I've been playing this game for probably 12, 15 hours at this point. Hisui,
that's it.
the Hisui region.
I could see how it was spelled, but I couldn't say it.
It's weird in the game, they give you a little bit of, it's the Hisui region. It eventually gets renamed the Sinnoh region, but Sinnoh has something to do with the gods, the Pokemon gods, and
right.
Maybe they reflect more on it in the later game, but I'm still not quite understanding why that is named Sinnoh, and then they changed the name later to Sinnoh. But
I don't know if you played Black, the original Pearl. Actually, I guess it's in Shining Pearl, Brilliant Diamond too. But there's like a library that kind of talks about.
There is
those books kind of talk about this basically where this game time frame it takes place of. So that's already in the lore.
I don't know if they go into that depth about. Oh, it used to be called the Hisui region, and now it's called the Sinnoh region for this reason.
Well, it doesn't go into like what it was called, but it does talk about like Sinnoh was built up because of a god or something like that. I feel that's different. Like what I'm saying is, the region was called the Hisui. And then they decided to change the name to Sinnoh to reflect their Pokemon gods. But nowhere in those texts that I remember, at least, do they say what Sinnoh was or is or whom. It's just a name. They didn't do their current events. What? Who,
yeah. So like
why?
in this game, I'm assuming they're going to go a little more into it, and I'll get some backstory. But a little bit of sidetrack there. But the catching of the Pokemon is really what is drawing me into this game, because you see the Pokemon on the field, so it's not like they're hidden or anything. You can sneak up on them and throw a Pokeball and just catch them without battling. If you do it right, you can just catch them and move on. It is kind of like Metal Gear Solid in a way, because you're crouching, hiding in bushes, getting close, and then if they spot you, they have the exclamation point above their head, like, huh? So it is just a neat little observation I found. But you have to fill out this Pokedex that you're trying to build the first of, and in the Pokedex they give you tasks that you need to complete, and some of the tasks are like, catch this many Bidoofs, catch 10 Bidoofs, catch 20 Bidoofs. So you could end up with over 20 Bidoofs in your pasture if you don't get rid of them. Uh, and then there are other things like, watch Pokemon do a certain move, have your Pokemon do a certain move, catch a Pokemon with a certain ball, however many times. So it gives you a lot to do within a certain quest on in that Pokedex entry. So with the additional Pokemon, you could. I actually don't know how many there are in the game, but if you wanted to 100% each and every one, boy, that would take you forever. Probably longer than your quest to do level 100s for everybody in Fire Red.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's not hard at all.
Well, I think if you like Pokemon, you should at least give Arceus a rent. I do believe if you are into Pokemon, if you're into the whole catching and aspect, if you're more into the catching than the fighting, Arceus is probably definitely the way to go.
Oh, 100%.
You just
this
enjoy
is the game. This is the game.
Yeah,
that,
if you just enjoy Pokemon in general, you're gonna like this. The downside is that it's not polished very well. You can tell this is like the first, maybe second time, because Sword and Shield was in this 3D type of space. That Game Freak this is their strong suit. It's not really optimized very well for the Switch. There's lots and lots of pop-in, but I found that if you were to break it into 3 tiers, your foreground, middle ground, and background, I found that most of the pop-in is occurring between the middle and backgrounds, where it changes from like low poly and low animation states, where it's like 3 or 4 frames for a Starly to fly, versus when they get into the middle ground, now it's a full animation. It is very apparent when you watch that. And if you rotate the camera around your character really fast, the frame rate, it hiccups.
Yeah, I noticed that
For
a few
someone
times
who-
when Des was playing it.
Mm-hmm. For someone who really cares about that stuff, it is probably going to stick out like a sore thumb to you.
Yeah, but then again, I mean, you're on the Switch, and for all intents and purposes, I mean, to be real, the Switch is not a powerhouse in any way, shape, or form.
No, but what I was about to say is, if that's something that's going to bothers you, this is going to bother you, and you may want to reevaluate things, or just kind of pass on it.
Right. But you're probably, like, what I was saying is, you're probably not on the Switch. If you're that kind of gamer, you're probably not playing your majority of your games on the Switch. Like, you're most likely not even a Pokemon fan. I don't want to say guaranteed that, but you're most likely not that kind of player, right?
Right. Well, Pokemon's never had the best graphics out there. People just enjoy it because it's a good game. And Arceus is a good game. The bones are there. The foundation is there for something that is incredible. And for me, playing this game, I can overlook a lot of that stuff, the negative, like with the graphics and everything, because I'm just enjoying going out there and playing the game. The graphics aren't bad enough where it's like I'm looking at mud. It is fitting, I guess you could say. The art style that Pokemon uses definitely helps out in this regard, because they can kind of get away with things here and there by, like I was saying earlier, it is that kind of cel shaded look without it being cel shaded. It is brightful. It is bright. It is colorful, and you can kind of overlook some of the graphical things here and there. The frame rate stuff is a little but I've not had it happen drop frames while playing just casually in the game. It was only really when I'm rotating the camera a lot or just whipping it around left or right or something.
When you're kind of forcing it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like you're running and then all of a sudden, hey, I'm here, frozen, and then no, now I'm not there, and I'm two steps ahead. It's not game breaking.
Now I'll say in regards to the gameplay and everything, the catching is great. I am about in my playthrough. I'm about to get to the point where I'm meeting the first Pokemon Lord, which is kind of like the not legendary Pokemon, but the higher tier Pokemon that are, I guess, assigned to different points in the story.
Oh, you said Lord.
These are the ones
like you were talking about a dude that's like a gym leader Lord.
So there are 2 clans in this game, not including your research clan. I guess that's a clan. I don't know. It's a team. So if you're familiar with Diamond and Pearl, this is taking place in the same region, the Sinnoh region. And in Diamond and Pearl, you had Team Galactic, and they are like the bad guys and everything. Well, you are working for
Galactic team.
I guess it is the original inception of this team, because they're Team Galactic, or they're the Galactic something.
The Galactic
or others.
team, right? I think that's what I was reading.
No, it is the Galactic something.
Yeah.
It is. Their goal is to make the world better for people in Pokemon to live in harmony, and in addition to filling out the Pokédex and learning more about Pokemon. So there are 2 rival clans, the Diamond clan and the Pearl clan, and they each have their own Pokemon lords, ones that they wouldn't say worship, but the ones that they regard highly. And the first one I'm going to is one for the Pearl folks. And it's not a spoiler to say it is Cleaver. It is the one they've been showing in all the trailers.
Oh. So do you get to choose which one you go to? We haven't gotten that far yet. So do you get to choose which one to go to first? Or is it like storyline, you need to go to Pearl first?
Story.
Okay.
So like doing everything up to this point in the story, they're basically telling, hey, can you go solve the situation?
Gotcha. Hey,
so it is story related.
So like every other open world game. Hey, we just met you, but you need to go fix this problem that we've had because we can't do it.
Right. Well, there's more story to it about why these people can't and these people can't.
Right.
Again, I'm not going to go in depth into it or anything, but just know that there's a reason why they ask you to do it. So there's those battles, which those are the ones, if you've seen the trailer, and again, I haven't gotten to it yet myself, but you're throwing these balms to calm the Pokemon down to get to a point where you can actually battle it, weaken it, and then I guess it gets upset again, and you got to throw more balms to get it to calm down so that you can weaken it again. And then I guess get to a point where you can throw a Pokeball and catch it. So along with those battles, there's also these alpha Pokemon that are roaming the lands. And the alpha Pokemon are just Pokemon that are in the area, but visually they are bigger. They have red glowing eyes, and they are more aggressive. So the one example I've got is I was on Discord with Eric, and I was in the tall grass walking, trying to sneak up. I think it was on a Bidoof. And I turn and look, and there's a very tiny, very cute Ponyta. I'm like, oh, it's a tiny pony. And I literally do a 180 because I hear something behind me, and I look, and there is this giant Rapidash with red eyes. I had to book it out of there quick. I won't say that is mother and baby, but boy, it felt like mother and child.
Felt like, what are you doing here? I'm gonna stomp
Yeah,
your face
exactly.
in.
But I see myself really getting into this game and putting a ton of hours into it. Like I said, I've already probably put roughly 15 or so, and I'm not that far in the story.
That was actually my worry. I was talking with our wife about it. I was like, it's because we got ours from GameFly, so it's a rental service kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I asked her, I was like, so is this a purchase? Do we purchase this game? And she smiled ear to ear. She was loving the game so far. But
I think that's a yes.
yeah, that's a yes. But my worry was that because this is like their first like entering into a open world with a more story driven game, is it going to be short? Right? Is it going to be one where I can rent it and beat it and kind of be done with it? Or is this one that's like a Pokemon game where it can continue after the main story, like, the Elite Four, quote unquote. And it feels like that.
From what I understand, there is an end game, and there is stuff to do after you've rolled credits, essentially.
Right.
So just like any other Pokemon game, you can go back and do, well, like I mentioned earlier, there is all those different quests within each Pokemon's Pokedex entry that you need to go and complete. You're only asked to complete about a handful of them. I think they count it as like 10 because they're scored. There's a whole scoring system that I'm not going to get into because I'm still not quite sure how it works, but it's there. And you earn points in cash for different things within those quests. So if you wanted to do a 100% Pokedex entry for each Pokemon, you'll be there for ages. And there's just a ton of it to do.
That sounds like my kind of game.
So, we've gone and talked a lot about Arceus here. You haven't been playing Arceus, but what have you been playing?
Well, what I have been playing is kind of the same as what I've been playing last week. Horizon 5 and still shiny hunting my Palkia. Yes, it's been a week and I still do not have my shiny Palkia.
I was about to say, is you want to talk about the shiny hunt? Because I'm sure that's going to be very short.
Yeah, it's very short, as in turn it on, soft reset, turn it on, soft reset, soft reset. Like, yeah, that's all it's been. And it's gotten to the point now where there's been a few times I'm looking at it and going, is it
worth it?
Was that? Maybe. No, that's not it. No. Yeah, so, yeah, no. I don't know. There's been a few times where I've been like, do I really need this Palkia to be shiny? And
I don't think you do.
I don't need it to, but, I want it to. Because it's the next one. The next one will do it. The next one will be it.
It's like gambling.
Yep.
You're gambling with a Palkia.
I'm just gambling with my time, that's all. I'm okay with that.
So you mentioned you're still doing Horizon stuff.
Yes.
What are you doing in Horizon?
Horizon 5. So that's the same thing. Rivals.
As I ask, knowing what exactly you're doing in Horizon.
I'm attempting to beat your times that you've beat me on. And
oh, really?
Yeah. I haven't been on Horizon today, so I don't know if you've gone on and went it through and beat all my times again. But we'll see. I'll hop on either later today or tomorrow and be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, we've made it up to the S1 and S2 classes now.
Yeah.
So we are venturing out of our little D and C class cars that nobody else ever wants to race or get times on.
Right.
If it's not me or you, I've noticed that usually it's people who do a single lap and they get their time and they're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
basically.
I
Yeah. Well, I mean, I did most of my times in my
I'm going to
Ranger
throw
because
this
of
out
that.
there.
What?
I'm going to throw this out there. If you're listening to this and you're part of the saving content car group or whatever they call them, club, you need to get out there and start challenging our times,
Yeah.
because this going back and forth between me and him is starting to wear really thin on the cars that we are using.
Yes, we're getting into actual race game cars, I guess. They're not race cars, but they're, you know, I've
Yeah, we're
made
going
my times in the Ranger, and they're kind of no longer holding.
Right. We're going from like fun and wacky cars, like, oh, a Ranger in the top speed charts, that's fun, to like, okay, I've got to use a Shelby now because the times are getting so quick.
Right, right. Well, did you see what I beat your Daytona with yet?
I did not.
Okay,
So we'll see what I go back and beat that. We'll see what I go and beat with the Daytona again.
I was going to say, you go back and beat, like, you're just assuming you're going to just go back and beat it. Like, that was an easy time. I mean, it only took me, an hour.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Some of these are starting to get to the point where it's like, okay, I'm sitting here, I've done 30, 40, 60 laps.
Right?
Trying to dial it in to get an extra 0.5 of a second.
Right. And then, like with me, I'll get that, like, okay, if I know I can get it with this. So if I cut this corner in a different way, that will shave off 1/10 of a second. It will throw me off for the next turn, but I can handle that. Like now I'm thinking to that point now of like my line is changing a little bit, so that way I'm cutting some time off. Yeah, it's getting up there.
Well, is there anything else that you wanted to cover before we move on to our weekly topic?
Yeah, real quick. I actually started today a little bit getting back into the Yakuza Kiwami game.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So
review up on the site by yours truly, by the way.
So I started playing this series because of you. I tried it initially, and I was like, this is a little too much for me right now. That was actually a time I was playing, like, I think I was playing The Witcher, or like ending The Witcher. Something. So it was like
You're coming off of a game that is a real time sink.
Yeah, it was
into
already
another
that,
game that can be a time sink.
Right. I'm like, I need to bounce off and do something different. But gotten back into it, and I have to say, the story, however bonkers it is just enticing. It is worth watching.
They know how to craft a narrative.
Yeah, and it's not like it doesn't always make sense, I guess, but it's not like, a Kingdom Hearts craziness.
Oh, yeah, no.
Or like a Metal Gear craziness. It's just a craziness of like, this fits together, but wow, does it go, all the way to Z before it comes back to B.
Yeah, well, they do a really good job of just kind of walking the line.
Yeah.
So the story itself can get pretty serious and can get, really into itself. But what kind of helps break that up and bring you back home is like some of the side stuff, or just some of the random stuff that happens in Kamurocho. It can get super wacky. And after, let me just say, the way I usually play is I will go through, a couple story beats, and then it's like, oh, I'm getting kind of bored of how serious everything is. I'm gonna go do, this hostess mini game. I'm gonna go try to hit some baseballs at that batting cage. I'm gonna go play an arcade game. Just go out and do weird stuff. and it just kind of resets you. And then when you get tired of that, it's like, well, I'm gonna go do some more of the game because now I want to know what's happening in the story again. It is a good push and pull, and Kiwami is probably not my favorite of the bunch, but they do a good job remaking and retelling that first game.
Yeah, it's solid. It really is. And I mean, the graphics aren't amazing, right? But it does a very solid job of telling a story. And speaking of Yakuza Kiwami, which is the remake. When was that? I don't even remember when it came out.
Which
The
Kiwami or the
actual
original?
Kiwami, not the original Kiwami.
No, so Kiwami is the original game was just called Yakuza.
Yeah.
Kiwami is Japanese for something meaning new.
Right. Well, like I said, I don't remember when the Kiwami remake, like when that came out, because that was like a remaster, right? It was like a 10-year anniversary remaster or something.
Yeah. So it came out not far after Zero.
Okay, that's what it was. Zero.
Yeah, because it is using the same engine as Zero.
Right. So, speaking of that, older games, that kind of leads us into our topic, right?
Yes. So this week, we're going to have a little discussion on, do old games really hold up? Is nostalgia really there? And like, are they really well-made games? Or are we making exceptions? To clear up the question, do old games really hold up, or do we make exceptions for them? So I think the easiest way to tackle this topic is maybe let's start with an example game. Let's just shoot for the moon. Does Super Mario, does that original Super Mario on the NES hold up?
No.
Or are we making an exception because it is such a high-profile game?
Yes.
Like, if you go back and play it today, is it still good?
Right.
Or are you saying it's good because of its history?
That's the key, right? That's where I've been going for a while is, people say these kind of things, and I go, like Mario, okay, does that still hold up? And I get a lot of people that, our age say, yeah, it's fun to play. I can go back and play it. I'm like, but hold up means like, if I gave this to my son who is 15, will he want to play it? No. And I've proven that. He's like, oh, that's cool. And then he's off to Roblox or something else. Like, it doesn't hold up. The only reason it holds up is because you have, a lot of people, in my opinion, a lot of people have the nostalgia factor of like, yeah, I remember when I played this, and this is a secret here, and this is a secret here, and I could, I made it really quick through this level. No, I remember when I was, so and so, this old, and it was so much fun. And you remember like the times you were playing it and what happened at the times, but the game itself isn't it isn't fun anymore because it is a very basic game.
So I think there are many factors that can go into this. One being the type of game, because something like Mario, maybe not. I'll give my thoughts here in a second, but games like your old arcade classics, stuff that was designed to be quarter eaters, those tend to hold up very well, especially if the physics and the gameplay loop is really good. I mean, there's a reason why games like Pac-Man are still played to this day. There's by even young kids. There's reasons why Tetris is so well done for how simple, quote unquote simple that is. It's because the actual loop, the actual gameplay of it is so good, and they can remake it all different ways. But if you were to give a kid the original Pac-Man they would sit there and they would enjoy it. Whether they get into it or not, that's neither here or there. It's does the game hold up? And if they sit there and play it for a round or two, like as if they were to put quarters into it, I think that, that succeeds. With Mario, what's interesting about this is that the gameplay, it holds up. Like the controls are tight. The jumping feels good. It is responsive. So when you're running around in the world 1-1, or you're going down into the underground or something, just using everything that is given to you to progress through each stage, it just feels good. I think the issue though is that it can be not fun.
I
Even with rose tinted glasses and looking back on it because of nostalgia and how much I enjoyed it as a kid, I can go back and I'll play a little bit of it here and there. It's like, yeah, this still feels great. I just don't want to play it.
Right.
Because I don't have fun with it. And like you said, you give it to a kid and the controls might be really good, but is that gameplay loop still fun?
I don't know. I mean, so like me going back to it, I find it fun because I know the game. But again, also, we played Nintendo, we had Sega. It's the funny thing is, we grew up in the same household with the same consoles, and I became a Sega kid through and through. Like I loved Sega.
I'm all for Nintendo.
And you were very much a Nintendo kid. So like, that does make a difference, I think. It's like for me, Mario doesn't hold up. And it never has. Like it was a good industry leader at the time that it came out, but I never really felt it as a great game. But then again, I can say the same thing about Sonic. Sonic doesn't hold up. That's been proven many times over.
Well, Sonic has an issue with that the original game was all about just going fast.
Right.
Whether or not you could control the characters, irrelevant. It was trying to make the game fast. But Sonic has some incredible music.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not as has been proven, I guess, previous times on our sister podcast. I wrote in about this.
Mm-hmm.
I do not like video game music. I actively turn video game music off when I before I play a game. So I'll start the game.
Such a shame.
And the first option I turn off is music. So I fully expect people to be like, what is wrong with this psycho? But back in the old days, you couldn't turn off music. That wasn't a thing. It was, this is what you get. You got it, the whole package.
Mm-hmm.
So it had good music. The game was okay for what it was, and it was fun for what it was. But I come back to it, and I don't think it holds up. But then again, my son, he played a bunch of Sonic games. Now he didn't play the original Sonics, but he did play a bunch of Sonic games, and liked them. And then my youngest daughter actually played. I had a emulator of the original Sonic, and she played that for probably about 2 hours. But that was also, I think, because she's 4, and it's much simpler to just hold right.
Yes,
and you're doing
at some
something.
point in the history of games, things do get a little more complicated. So for a young kid, it's more than just holding right and pressing the A button to jump. It is doing all this other stuff on the buttons and the triggers and joysticks.
Right.
So does the conversation here change any with different generations? Because we're talking about NES.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about arcade, and that's obviously before any of the home console stuff. What about when you get into things like your 64 or your PlayStation?
So I think
360 or PS3?
Yep.
You know,
See, as the generations, as you get newer in the generations, I think it more likely to hold up because you're older, like Nintendo and the Super Nintendo and Genesis. Those were very game console, like games,
Mhm.
right? They were very like you picked it up, you played it, you didn't save until much later, right into the generations. You just played it and you could replay it. It felt like you said, put a coin in the slot and go again. It was
Mhm.
that loop. Then you started getting things like on the PlayStation 1 and the Xbox and the GameCube where these were more fleshed out stories and had meat to them, for lack of a better term. And those tend to hold up much, I think, much better because you have like a movie. You have a feel for the character. You empathize or sympathize or hate. You start disliking and liking the characters more than the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that could just show like me. I mean, I'm also a very big story-driven gamer, right? Like I love Metal Gear Solid because the story is insane. So I give it passes on Metal Gear Solid, passes on how clunky the controls can be, and they can be clunky because the story is great.
But I think that also falls into what I was mentioning with the gameplay loop and everything. Because other than the story, Metal Gear, it still plays well.
Yeah, it's a solid game. Yeah, most of them.
I mean, I think the conversation changes when you start getting into games that you remember playing well, but you look back on it and they don't play well, but you remember them fondly. So like, I'm gonna hate myself for saying this, but like GoldenEye, it does not hold up. Many memories of playing that game. I love that game.
Hours. I mean, hours of both you and me both, we're playing it with our friends. Like,
Yeah.
The best game in the world. We loved it.
But playing on a controller like the N64 again is garbage.
It is literally, it felt like, oh my gosh, I made like the quintessential concession to play this game. Like I use this horrid controller with just bad tracking and bad, usability to play this game.
Now, I will say, I will take a 64 controller over a GameCube controller any day.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you
any day,
that's you're pulling a controller that works and feels okay to a controller that is basically a piece of rubbish out of the bin.
I've never liked the button layout setup. I understand where they're coming from with it. I don't like it.
Yeah.
But with GoldenEye, I think it is, the gameplay is there. The controls are not. The story is kind of, here or there, but it's also based on a movie.
Yeah, it's mediocre, but yeah, exactly. It's based off a movie.
If you ever played the leaked remaster, the Xbox Live remaster.
Oh, yeah, that was what? It leaked out like last year or something, or 2 years ago?
Yeah, I played it, and it's good. It's one of those where you realize, well, with modern controls, this game does hold up. Even if you were to put it on because it was one of those, you could swap the graphics between old and new.
Oh, right.
So even if you play it on the old, with the new control scheme, a more modern control scheme, it's good. It still holds up. And that's an example of one of those, like, if you go back to the original, no, because the control input's kind of, wonky. A remaster of it's good. So does that change anything? If any of these older games remastered to fix any issues or to bring any, we'll just say controls, but just overall bring it into the current generation of stuff, does that change the outlook on it?
Yes.
Does it go from a game that doesn't hold up to, oh yeah, now it does hold up because we had to change things?
I was going to say it does, but also that's that you're no longer playing the game that you say holds up. You're playing the game that's been fixed to make it hold up, right? So like if you took Mario and the original Mario and brought it up and changed things to make it more modern, then yes, it would be more modern. It would make more. It would work, and it would quote unquote hold up. But then again, it's not, in my opinion, not like the spirit of the question, because we're not really saying does this old game that's been remastered and renewed and added to hold up. We're actually asking, does this old game ported to an emulator or a new console or whatever is it still fun? Is it still hold up? Is it playable, kind of thing? Like, that's how I see the question.
So I think that falls into that same. Have you ever heard the? I don't even know what you call it. The description of, is a boat still the same boat if you've replaced all the planks on it?
Oh, no.
It's like, if you were to take, let's call the boat the Mary. If you were to take the Mary, pull off all the planks, all the wood, put new pieces on there, and then take that old wood and build a new, or build an exact replica of it, which one is the original?
The replica. That's so to me, that's like saying I'm taking my computer tower, I'm taking everything out of my computer tower and putting it in another tower and putting a new guts inside the old tower. Which one's the original? Well, the one that's in the new tower. That's the original.
Right. Well, some would argue that the new one is, because the spirit of the thing is there. That piece of machine is your machine. That is, if you were to give it a name, that is Mary.
Well, see, I guess that's a different look on it, because like to me, if I was to give my machine a name, right, say Mary.
Well, I'm just using that as an example to be like, okay, this is the same thing.
Right.
Giving it a name.
Well, mine would be Ulysses.
It started out as Mary.
Let's be real here. Mine would be a funner name than Mary. Okay.
Well, yes. But, and the same question can be brought with games in this regard. If you were to go through and remaster or remake, is it still the same game?
So how much?
And because of that, is it still the same game because they've removed a lot of the original jank?
Yeah. So how much change? And if you're looking at like 100% bar, right? How much change in a game constitutes new, right? If you've worked it from zero and you've done 80% of the game has been changed, is that still the old game or is that a new game?
Yeah. No, I get it.
And I guess that tolerance is certainly by the player, the user, right?
Right.
And that's how far you can make your exceptions on.
So then, with that in mind, can a game still, quote unquote, hold up at that point? Or do you consider that, okay, it is Mario, but totally redone, new graphics, new physics, but the levels are the same? Do you say, oh yeah, Mario holds up because this works, or Mario holds up because the formula has always worked?
See, I would say that if it's been redone to the point where it looks better, or the majority of the game has changed or things have been added, then I would say
Mm-hmm.
Mario holds up because of what's added to it, and not because of the gameplay itself or the original game formula.
Yeah. So not that this is like an easy question to have a
There is
final
no final answer to
yes or
this.
no, but I think the conclusion we're coming to for this would be it depends on the game.
Uh, I would say it depends on the gamer, right? I
Yeah,
think it definitely depends on
game
the
and
person.
gamer.
And you look at it like there's a lot of games that I know that I loved playing when I was younger
Mm-hmm.
that I've put in front of my kids, and each one of them had a different reaction or enjoyment out of them. A lot of the stuff that I put in front of my son, yeah, it was okay. That's a game. That's cool. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my games that I like. Right.
So I think also with that, it might also come down to like the age at which he is
Right.
playing too.
That's true too. I put a few older games in front of him when he was younger, around 8, 9, 10, and he kind of bounced off
Mm-hmm.
of most of them. But actually, it was probably like 11, 12. But I put some of those older games in front of my middle daughter, and she kind of had more of a draw to it. But then again, she actually has a more of a draw to those more basic looking games anyway. Like, she's not out there looking at games for graphic fidelity. I've noticed
Just want some fun.
they're fun. It's cute. It's fun. It's colorful. She tends to like those. And my son, he doesn't mind them. He's not like poo pooing on them, but he's definitely like, oh yeah, I want blood. I want guns. I want realistic. And then he plays Roblox. So that's a little outlier. And then my youngest, she's starting to get into games and things that like Minecraft. She wants to play so badly, but she doesn't have the motor skills to play that. She just doesn't understand,
Right.
can't understand the two hands, a mouse, and that kind of thing. But she can play things like the emulated Sonic and stuff like that. So I think that this topic really does end up being old games hold up depending on the user.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll agree with that. I'll say an old game can hold up, but it all depends on who's playing it.
Yeah. And because we look at it now, games have definitely become a much bigger medium, right, for storytelling and stuff. So as you get older, you're just like in movies and in food and everything else, your tastes become more refined, I guess, for lack of an actual good word, more refined, and you're looking for more out of it. So that's where we get these newer games that have these deep deep stories and plot twists and stuff like that, where like you would show something like I don't know, The Last of Us to a younger kid, and they're not going to see a whole lot of value in that, because the value of The Last of Us is really the story, and your want to be empathetic or hate a character, where 10-year-olds like, yeah, I just want to jump and squish stuff. Sackboy.
Right, but I guess, but if you're going down the story route, is it really the game that is holding up or not holding up at that point, or is it the movie that is holding up or not holding up?
It's
Because I think what the discussion here is the game. So regardless of if the story holds up, the story could be, but does the game play well? And I think that's what this specific question, I think that's the spirit of it.
Yeah.
Is,
I get you.
But I see where you're coming from, because the same thing could be said for movies.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm never going to go and watch like a Casablanca or something like that, because they just turned it on and seeing how it was made and everything back then, and the different cinema techniques, they just don't work for me in this age because we have all this other stuff. And that's what I'm used to seeing.
Right.
You know, different ways of shooting the talent, different ways of editing and directing. They unless you have an appreciation for it, they just don't work.
Well, that is a big difference between you and me because of our career fields. You know, I'm an engineer by trade, so like when I'm watching a movie, I don't see cuts, I don't see shots, I don't see lighting. I literally only see story. And it's similar to a video game. It's just that interactive part's also there. You know, obviously it has to kind of feel good to play. But, you know, that's why I think part of why the music doesn't affect me. So when I play these games and stuff, I can tune out the music because it's not emotionally involving me any more than the story would itself. Whereas your career, it is much more visual based and, you know, aesthetic, and it does it look good along with, does it play or sound, or is it a whole package? I think I'm more apt to be able to pull out sections of that package and be like, yeah, this is still fine. I don't need this. This is a waste. Because I'm psycho.
Well, I think that's. I mean, I'm not gonna disagree.
Of course you wouldn't.
So, I think that's good for today.
Yeah.
We discussed a lot. Whether it was discussed very well or not, who cares?
Well, that's not the goal of the show. No one ever said we discuss things well or properly. We just discuss.
And then you can come along for the ride.
Exactly.
Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed our conversation, please visit us at savingcontent.com for more podcast magic. Be sure to head on over to the guys over at QuickSave and give them a listen. They're on hiatus right now, but they'll be back kicking and reading more of my emails and other stuff.
And mine.
Eventually. And yours, yes. So while you're at the site, why not take a look, see what our latest news is, latest reviews we've got. If you want to reach out to us, if you have questions you'd like to ask us, if you have a topic you want us to discuss, you can reach us on Twitter at Saving Content. And finally, be sure to subscribe to us. We're Spotify. We're on Apple. We just got listed on Google.
Yeah.
So we're in your podcast feed of choice, most likely. So like the show, tell your friends, help us grow, share it with people, and if you have to, just make them listen to it. I don't know.
Yeah, shove an earbud
But
in
we
their
would
ears.
really appreciate
Listen.
it. So all in all, I just want to thank you guys and gals for listening today. And remember, kindness costs us nothing, but it means everything. Good night.
Good night.